Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mazz Reporter. This is your weekend roundup of the top trending news for February 7th, 2026, as the day unfolds across time zones. We're bringing you the key stories, the global headlines, and the developments you need to know.
Top trending news from United Kingdom today. Starmer apologizes, issued a public apology. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has issued a public apology to Jeffrey Epstein's victims after facing intense pressure for appointing Peter Mandelson as U.S. ambassador. Trump backs UK's Chagos Islands handover deal. U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed support for the UK's agreement to hand over the Chagos Islands, including the Diego Garcia military base, to Mauritius, following a call with Starmer. Brexit trade controls affecting food prices. New post-Brexit customs rules are set to increase costs for imported meat, fish, cheese, and dairy products, potentially pushing up grocery bills for UK consumers. Aga Khan at Windsor. In a historic and symbolic event, King Charles III hosted a private black-tie dinner at Windsor Castle on February 4, 2026, in honor of His Highness the Aga Khan V. Winter Olympics 2026. The Milano Cortina Games are underway. Team GB is making headlines as Jack Draper made an emphatic return in the Davis Cup qualifiers. Sharp rise in homeless refugees in England. BBC analysis of government data reveals a dramatic increase in homeless refugees in England, from around 3,560 in 2021-22 to 90,310 in 2024-25. This highlights ongoing challenges in asylum and housing policy. Inquiry finds deaths in Channel migrant boat disaster were avoidable. A UK inquiry concluded that at least 30 deaths in the worst small boat crossing incident in the Channel were preventable due to systemic failures by authorities, including the Coast Guard and related operations. Nasser Hussain criticized the International Cricket Council. Former England captain Nasser Hussain has criticized ICC for the way they have handled the recent issue of Bangladesh cricket team refusing to travel to India for the T20 World Cup and Pakistan boycotting the group stage game against India. Top trending news from Europe today. Emmanuel Macron advocating dialogue with Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron launched a distinct diplomatic effort to resume direct dialogue with Russian President Vladimir Putin, aiming to re-establish an independent European channel of communication. Ukraine-Russia, prisoner swap, and stalled peace talks. Russia and Ukraine completed a significant prisoner exchange of around 314 people, 157 Ukrainians, and 160 Russians, the first since October, following U.S.-mediated talks in Abu Dhabi, EU to soften emissions rules for major industries. The European Union plans to relax some of the world's strictest emissions reduction regulations for thousands of companies. This comes as climate policy meets economic realities. Euro surges to four-year high as ECB holds rates. Europe's central bank kept interest rates steady, while the euro strengthened against a weakening US dollar. The currency's rise is stimulating concerns for exporters and inflation dynamics across the EU economy. Severe weather and Storm Leonardo impacts. Storm Leonardo has caused deadly flooding and disruptions in Portugal and Spain. The storm has led to widespread travel chaos and warnings as it moves across parts of southern Europe. Italian security and protest developments. Italian authorities are granting police new arrest powers following a riot in Turin. Separately, Italy reported foiling cyber attacks of Russian origin targeting the Winter Olympics. Epstein files fallout. in Europe. Newly released Jeffrey Epstein-related documents are causing political ripples, resignations, denials, and investigations in places like Norway into former PM Thorbjørn Jagland. Epstein files reveal Bannon. Epstein files indicate that Donald Trump's former advisor, Steve Bannon, was actively focused on raising funds to support far-right European figures like Marine Le Pen and Matteo Salvini ahead of key elections in Europe. Greenland tensions. Tensions remain high between the U.S. and Denmark over U.S. interests in Greenland. Venice and Greece marine invasions. Scientists in Venice are reporting an invasion of cannibalistic jellyfish causing issues for the fishing sector, while Greek waters are seeing an influx of venomous lionfish. Social media bans. Several European nations are tightening digital regulations. Spain and Slovenia have proposed banning social media for children under 16 and 15 respectively. Storm Leonardo. Storm Leonardo has caused deadly flooding and disruptions in Portugal and Spain, killing at least one man in Portugal and leaving a woman missing after being swept away in Spain. Top trending news from Americas today. U.S. military strikes in the Pacific. The U.S. struck another alleged drug-carrying boat in the Eastern Pacific, the second this year and 38th in recent months, amid ongoing anti-narcotics operations linked to regional pressures. U.S. and Iran officials head to Oman for talks. Diplomatic engagement is underway as U.S. and Iranian officials are heading to Oman for critical talks, aimed at easing tensions after months of heightened rhetoric and geopolitical friction. Trump administration changes. A new federal rule has been implemented making it easier to fire up to 50,000 career civil servants for subverting presidential directives. A tsunami of immigration cases. A significant increase in immigration enforcement, particularly stemming from intensified detention policies in early 2026, has created a tsunami of legal challenges that are overwhelming U.S. attorneys' offices and federal courts. Regional measles surge and health alert. A major health alert has been issued across the Americas as measles cases surge sharply, particularly in Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Canada's auto pivot. Canada has unveiled a new industrial plan to bolster its auto sector, marking a strategic pivot away from the U.S. following recent tariff strains. Colombia's President Petro met Trump. Colombia's President Petro met Trump at the White House with discussions on drug kingpins. Broader trends show a right-wing wave in parts of Latin America, inspired by Trump's approach, including shifts in Chile, Bolivia, and Colombia. U.S.-Argentina trade deal. Argentina and the U.S. signed a sweeping reciprocal trade and investment agreement, cutting tariffs, boosting exports, including Argentine beef, and deepening ties under Presidents Milei and Trump. This expands on critical minerals cooperation. Venezuela developments. An amnesty law for jailed protesters passed its first vote, potentially covering political prisoners and returning assets. Prisoner releases continue amid U.S. pressure. Cuba fuel and U.S. pressure. Cuba faces shortages and blackouts, with the U.S. stepping up humanitarian aid while blocking oil supplies, including pressuring Mexico. Cuba signals readiness for talks with Trump, but not regime change. Mexico, arrests and security issues. The mayor of Tequila was arrested for allegedly extorting distillers in collusion with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. CJNG. Epstein files fallout. The release of millions of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein continues to impact global figures. Scrutiny has intensified on Bill Gates' ties to the financier, and a major U.S. law firm chairman has stepped down following the latest disclosures. European travel to U.S. and World Cup impacts. As the 2026 FIFA World Cup approaches, rising travel costs and uncertainties have led some European travelers to reconsider U.S. trips or opting to watch events from home, underscoring how major sporting events affect transatlantic travel trends. Top trending news from South Asia today: Imran Khan's health concerns. Concerns are growing over the health of jailed former PM Imran Khan, with his party claiming he is in grave danger due to a medical condition affecting his eyesight. Pakistan's boycott of India match at T20 World Cup 2026. Pakistan has confirmed it will boycott its group stage match against India in the ongoing ICC Men's T20 World Cup. India has confirmed it will travel to Sri Lanka. Pakistan's boycott has prompted the ICC to consider forfeit stances. Deadly coal mine blast in India. A blast at an unregulated rat hole coal mine in Meghalaya's East Jaintia Hills killed at least 18 people, with others feared trapped. Rescue operations continue amid concerns over safety in informal mining sites. Nipah virus monitoring. Health authorities across South Asia have increased screenings at airports following a Nipah virus outbreak in India. Aftermath of Balochistan. Militant attacks in Pakistan. Pakistani military operations against Baloch separatists concluded after intense clashes. 216 deaths across incidents. Insurgents targeted government offices, banks, and took hostages. Pakistan accused India. India-US trade deal finalized. Following talks between PM Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump, India and the US struck a trade agreement reducing tariffs on Indian goods. India also agreed to curb Russian oil imports. Bangladesh developments. Former PM Sheikh Hasina received another 10-year sentence in corruption cases. The country prepares for landmark elections around February 12th. The interim government phase ends, and old parties are favored to dominate. Pakistan observed Kashmir Solidarity Day. A 1-minute silence given at 10 a.m. to honor Kashmiri martyrs. Human chains at key Pakistan AJK entry points. Solidarity walks and seminars across the country. And special ceremonies at Pakistani embassies and high commissions around the world. Investigation into triple suicide. Authorities are investigating the suspected suicide of 3 young sisters near Delhi. Early reports suggest the tragedy may be linked to a combination of financial distress. Global Teacher Prize win. An Indian activist and teacher, Ranjit Singh Desale, an Indian teacher from Maharashtra, has been awarded the U.S. $1 million Global Teacher Prize for transforming schools in impoverished slum areas through innovative art-based learning. Climate and water crisis. A catastrophic water shortage is being reported in Afghanistan, while Nepal continues to grapple with severe air pollution that is impacting public health and its tourism-driven economy. A suicide bombing in Islamabad. On the 6th February 2026, a suicide bombing at the Qasr-e-Khadijatul Kubra Mosque in Islamabad killed at least 31 people and injured over 160 others during Friday prayers. The Islamic State, IS, claimed responsibility for the blast, which occurred during a high-profile visit from the Uzbek president. Top trending news from Western Pacific region today. U.S. military strikes on alleged drug trafficking vessels in the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. military, via Southern Command, conducted another lethal strike on a suspected narco-trafficking vessel in the Eastern Pacific, killing 2 people. This is part of an ongoing campaign under the Trump administration, RAF, in the U.S. On 2 February 2026, the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, deployed approximately 227 aviators, 6 F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters, and an E-7A Wedgetail to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. Australia continues to prioritize interoperability through large-scale multinational training in the United States and the Indo-Pacific, Waitangi Day, and Indigenous Solidarity. These commemorations in New Zealand have become a focal point for Pacific Indigenous leaders uniting on ocean conservation and regional solidarity, geopolitical tensions, and U.S.-China dynamics in the Indo-Pacific. Discussions around U.S. efforts to counter China's influence in critical minerals, with the U.S. pushing a new trading bloc involving allies like Australia, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and others to reduce reliance on China. Regional security and power struggles. Intense competition continues between Australia and China for influence in the Solomon Islands, with Papua New Guinea also navigating security partnerships. Pacific Islands Forum, PIF. Pacific Islands Forum Troika leaders met in Brisbane to reaffirm unity ahead of 2026 events. The meeting served to reaffirm regional unity and prepare for key diplomatic events throughout 2026, most notably the upcoming 55th PF Leaders Meeting in Palau. High Court ruling pressure. Fiji. Fiji's government has decided not to appeal a High Court ruling that declared the dismissal of the anti-corruption chief unlawful, placing pressure on PM Sitiveni Rabuka's leadership. Disease alerts. Health authorities in the Western Pacific are currently managing a severe H3N2 influenza outbreak in Papua New Guinea's Morobe province and persistent dengue fever crises in Samoa and American Samoa. Additionally, high-risk alerts remain active for pertussis in Vanuatu and measles in Australia, driven by a mix of seasonal surges and imported cases. Top trending news from Eastern Mediterranean region today. EBRD investment. The European Bank for Reconstruction EBRD invested a record $2.8 billion across 65 projects in the southern and eastern Mediterranean SEMED region. Most of the investment focused on private sector growth in countries including Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, Tunisia, and the West Bank and Gaza. U.S.-Iran nuclear talks in Oman amid heightened tensions. High-stakes negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are set for Friday in Oman, focusing on Iran's nuclear program. This follows recent U.S. military buildups, including aircraft carriers and strike groups in the region, and warnings from President Trump. Shipping risk as Houthi threat extends. Naval advisories warn that Houthi missiles and drones from Yemen could now reach targets as far north as the eastern Mediterranean, posing a growing risk to commercial shipping routes and regional security. Mediterranean strike. A strike is scheduled across 20 Mediterranean seaports today, 6th of February, which is expected to disrupt regional shipping and trade. Chemical spraying allegations in Lebanon. The Lebanese government has accused Israel of spraying concentrated herbicides via aircraft over southern villages and farmland. Human rights groups have warned that such actions could constitute a war crime. Ongoing Gaza aid efforts and flotilla plans. Activists are planning a larger global Sumud flotilla to sail for Gaza in March, aiming to deliver aid with up to 1,000 participants as a major humanitarian intervention. This comes amid reports of Israeli strikes in Gaza and border developments. Greece-Turkey, Israel-Cyprus. Defense ties and regional brinkmanship. Growing military cooperation between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel is drawing attention, including joint exercises, air defense acquisitions, and trilateral summits shifting toward security integration. Turkey is monitoring these developments closely and has signaled readiness to counter moves like potential naval bases in Cyprus. Chevron and Syria agreed to a new offshore energy exploration deal. Chevron has signed a preliminary agreement with Syria's state oil company and Qatar's UCC Holding to explore for oil and gas off the Syrian Mediterranean coast, marking a rare major foreign investment in Syria's energy sector and expanding activity in the eastern Mediterranean's hydrocarbon frontier. Libya files an official UN maritime complaint against Greece. Libya has filed its first official complaint to the United Nations against Greece, accusing Athens of violating maritime rights in the eastern Mediterranean by issuing exploration licenses in disputed waters. Egypt and Turkey deepen tourism cooperation. Egypt and Turkey are reported to be strengthening tourism ties with increased visitor flows and streamlined travel arrangements, reflecting improved diplomatic relations. Top trending news from the African region today. China-South Africa trade deal. South Africa is finalizing a significant duty-free trade agreement with China to diversify its export markets amid growing tariff tensions with the United States. South Africa tops African wealth inequality rankings. Despite being the continent's largest economy by GDP, South Africa now reportedly has the highest income inequality in Africa, with the wealthiest 10% capturing a disproportionate share of national income, highlighting ongoing socio-economic divides. U.S.-Congo mineral agreements. A series of mining deals have been signed between the U.S. and the Democratic Republic of Congo for copper, cobalt, and zinc, aimed at securing strategic mineral stockpiles. Russia and Niger neutralized 20 militants. In Niger, Russian Africa Corps forces recently helped the military junta repel a major ISIL assault on the Niamey International Airport, solidifying Moscow's role as the region's primary security partner following the exit of Western troops. Rubaya mine disaster and mineral exploitation. A massive landslide at a coltan mine in Rubaya, eastern DRC, killed at least 227 people. The site, which provides 15% of the world's coltan, is currently occupied by M23 rebels, leading to accusations that illegal exploitation and a lack of safety standards caused the tragedy. Massacre in Nigeria's Kwara State. Gunmen attacked villages. The attack occurred amid heightened tension following recent U.S. military airstrikes against terrorist targets in the region and claims by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding religious persecution in Nigeria. Victims were reportedly targeted for refusing to join extremists. Nigeria deploys troops after deadly attacks. The Nigerian government has sent military forces to Kwara State following fatal jihadist attacks that killed many villagers. The violence has heightened security concerns in the region. Release of kidnapped worshippers in Nigeria. All remaining abductees, around 177, including churchgoers, from a mass kidnapping last month in Kurmanwali, Kaduna State, have been freed and returned home. This provides some relief amid Nigeria's ongoing kidnapping and banditry challenges. South Sudan hospital airstrike. A government airstrike reportedly hit a Doctors Without Borders (MSF) hospital, with aid workers missing or affected after another facility was looted. This exacerbates concerns over civilian safety in the country's ongoing conflict. Mass flooding in Morocco causes large-scale evacuations. Heavy rains and floods in northwestern Morocco have forced the evacuation of more than 140,000 people, displacing families and damaging infrastructure. Emergency responses are underway amid ongoing weather challenges. Sudan humanitarian crisis worsens. Human Rights Watch and UN warnings describe Sudan's war as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with famine threats in Darfur, Kordofan, mass displacement, over 11 million. Atrocities and aid blockages by warring parties. Sudanese Army and RSF. Sahel crisis escalates. Rising violence in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is forcing millions to flee, deepening one of Africa's worst displacement crises.
If you found this weekend roundup report for February 7th, 2026 helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who want to stay informed. We'll continue bringing you clear, reliable, and insightful updates on the stories shaping our world. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay informed.